Sì, buon pomeriggio a tutti. Buon
Good
pomeriggio.
afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone here in the room. Good afternoon to our speakers, to the moderator of the after session. And I would also like to welcome those who follow us on Facebook and on YouTube. We are here to start the announcement of the fourth decisive event in addition, innovation, and generativity. This afternoon, we are going to talk about the promotion of intangible culture and high-quality local products. And what is interesting about this session is that we're going to hear from our European partners. This is a project that is part of the MDNet project. The municipality of Caltanissetta is the lead partner for the region of Sicily. We have 12 partners from 8 countries. Before giving the floor to the moderator of the afternoon session, I would like to inform you that we're going to have some international speakers. But as I do at the beginning of every session, I would like to give you some general information about our first Mediterranean lifestyle park, so that even those who are connecting for the first time know what we are talking about. The first Mediterranean Lifestyle Park is an economic project to promote good income and the development of enterprises. Now, Sicily is suffering because of the loss of population, not only in the rural areas, in the central area of Sicily, which is the one where we are, but also in urban areas. Sicily has lost 400,000 inhabitants in the last 10 years, and actually this is only an official figure, and the actual numbers are higher because there are a lot of people who left Sicily, who live in the rest of Italy or abroad, but who still maintain their official place of abode in Sicily, but actually no longer live here. So we would like to stop this loss of individuals with all their resources and talents. And we are dealing with a number of crises which combined together. There is the long-lasting economic crisis. Caltanissetta and Sicily in general became an important center for the mining industry, but then again there was a crisis. Then there was the crisis of the oil industry. There was the development of the building sector, but then again a crisis of the building industry. And then there has been the industrial agriculture crisis of the second in the post-World War II. And so there are a number of crises which affected our territory. And our project strives to promote a new development model from the center of Sicily to the rest of Sicily and Italy in general. The model we are pursuing is the model of a new lifestyle, which should be more human, more sustainable, more community-based, with people living outdoors, following the Latin principle mens sana in corpore sano, a healthy mind in a healthy body. So we want people to do more physical activity. The park is an integrated system with many different projects, such as the one promoting hiking in rural areas, the promotion of local landscapes, which change colors from one season to the other. And we want to promote Mediterranean cuisine. We are developing playgrounds outdoors, and we also want to promote monuments, architectural beauties, old towns, old villages, which can also become the places where to market Mediterranean products. So we have to involve farmers, local producers. This park involves several municipalities. It includes the whole of central Sicily. Just to give you an idea, we are talking about an area of more than 10,000 square meters with 100, 150 municipalities with more than 1.5 million inhabitants. How is the park organized? It is an integrated partnership founded on 3 pillars which have the same importance. These 3 pillars are businesses, the public sector, and the social sector, the third sector. During the first day, we invited Mr. Zamagni, who is a top-notch expert in civil economy. Our park strives to promote the Mediterranean lifestyle. We want to create income, wealth for the community through high quality production. This morning, we heard from several speakers that that's where we need to start from. We also invited Mr. Butera, who gave us a lecture during the second day. He is one of the most important experts in Italy on environmental science. The park is based on UNESCO decisions which recognize the Mediterranean lifestyle as an intangible cultural asset. Then another pillar of our project is the encyclical by Pope Francis, Laudato Si, which in my opinion, all young people should read. And then another pillar we use as foundation of the project is the movement by Carlo Petrini, Madre Terra. In our partnership, we have been able to involve a lot of different entities, associations, organizations working for the good of Sicily. We have been able to combine both tangible and intangible cultural heritage, because the two have to be combined. And we are going to use all the financial tools we have. We are drawing inspiration um, from what was carried out in the Molise region, in the municipality of Campo di Pietra, where they have rediscovered sheep tracks, the trails used for transhumans. And we heard from their experience from the mayor. And we're drawing inspiration from them, but we can also rely on the National Recovery and Resilience Plan until 2027. But beside the strategic planning and the mobilization of all the know-how and skills we have, we also need to develop a legal entity to govern the process. The municipality of Caltanissetta created the Councillorship for Territorial Growth, the councillorship which I had, and now it is time to move to the practical implementation of this project. We need to build a common house for the private, public, and third sector, the 3 pillars of this park. Independently from who the next councillor will be, this is a long-term project. our process is organized by steps, and we would like to create a foundation that would have all the necessary operational tools. I would like to conclude by informing you of the goals of this 5-day event called Tradition, Innovation and Generativity. We want to focus on the goals of the project. We have already heard from many distinguished speakers. And secondly, we have a number of roundtables with the main stakeholders of the park. During the first day, we talked about the legal framework for this public-private partnership. We then discussed the requirements to be admitted into the park. We need to understand who and which entities can be admitted. And then we also focused on the standards that we must comply with if we want to provide something to visitors. Of course, the park needs to be consistent with the standards parameters of Mediterranean lifestyle. So yesterday we talked about the characteristics of Mediterranean life, and we all said that the community needs the involvement of all individuals. And so everyone needs to be on board. And today we're here to talk about the promotion of intangible culture and high quality local products. And tomorrow we're going to talk about education. We're going to hear from academics, university professors. We invited school directors, professors of all school levels, from primary school up to university. I have concluded my introduction, and I would like to give the floor to Jesse Marsh, our advisor for the MDNet project, who will act as the moderator. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the staff of the MDNet project for helping organizing this event. Thank you, Francesco. After the presentation of the park, I would like to make a connection between this 5-day event and the MDNet project. I would like to explain you what the relation is. The municipality of Caltanissetta joined the MDNet project in the 2 years ago. And we have already heard some of the experiences from other 10 regions, from Portugal to Cyprus, and we can learn from them. I think we could implement some of their methodologies in our own park. So what we need to do our best to spread best practices, and the result of all this work was the drawing up of a joint declaration. If all the partners from all of the Mediterranean believe in a Mediterranean diet and in Mediterranean lifestyle, can sign a joint statement, then the network can be more effective. Today we're going to hear from some of our partners to learn from them. And I would like to invite the region of Sicily to show that it is willing to collaborate with the other partners that have already signed this joint statement. But first, we need to know, we want to inform you of what we're asking you to sign. That is why, in order to explain the European project, we have a partner from Prodeca, from Catalonia. We have Neus Balaguer, one of the main stakeholders in the project, and she will talk about the MDNet declaration.
Can you see me on the screen? Because I don't know if you are okay. First of all,
sullo schermo, sì. Prima di tutto grazie per l'invito, siamo molto felici di essere qui, sia personalmente come Neus che come Prodeca. Cerco di condividere lo schermo, vediamo se funziona. Credo che Marco e Jesse abbiano fatto un'ottima introduzione al discorso, non serve che spieghi io che cosa riguarda il progetto MDNet. Mi concentrerò invece sulla dichiarazione che è stata menzionata. Prodeca presenta questa dichiarazione che comunque è risultato del lavoro di tutti i partner del progetto. È una strategia in sostanza, è un'opportunità anche per difendere, conservare e promuovere, valorizzare più di adesso in maniera strategica la dieta mediterranea. Questo è il titolo della mia presentazione ed è appunto l'oggetto della dichiarazione dell'MDNet. Per tutti i partner del progetto, la dieta mediterranea è parte essenziale dell'identità del Mediterraneo. Quando parlavamo di dieta mediterranea, ci siamo resi conto di una cosa, cioè tanti ritengono che appunto il concetto dieta mediterranea sia troppo incentrata sulla parola dieta e abbia solo a che fare col cibo, quindi magari perdere peso, mangiare un prodotto piuttosto che un altro per questioni di salute. È un po' vero, perché la dieta mediterranea è un regime alimentare, è una dieta, la dieta più sana dichiarata dall'OMS, però non è solo salute, è anche cultura, l'abbiamo detto anche prima, il modo in cui viviamo, ci rapportiamo al cibo, produciamo determinati prodotti, il nostro stile di vita, tutto questo fa parte di una cultura. Altre organizzazioni, per esempio l'UNESCO, riconoscono appunto la dieta mediterranea come una eredità culturale, un bene culturale dell'umanità. Poi non solo salute e cultura, ma anche ambiente, perché la dieta mediterranea è stata dimostrata essere sostenibile. Non è che lo dico io, l'ha detto la FAO, quindi un'organizzazione di tutto rispetto in campo agroalimentare. E poi, quando parliamo di dieta mediterranea, parliamo anche di economia. Abbiamo parlato di come ci rapportiamo ai prodotti, alle persone che acquistano i prodotti, a chi li produce. Tutto questo ha un impatto sul business locale, sull'economia locale, quindi ha delle implicazioni importanti dal punto di vista economico. Devo dire che è importante, quando parliamo di dichiarazione per la dieta mediterranea, pensare con questo approccio olistico. che tenga conto di aspetti di salute, cultura, ambiente ed economia. I partner del progetto si sono resi conto che tante regioni mediterranee, soprattutto con la globalizzazione e soprattutto nelle zone rurali, non hanno la consapevolezza di tutte le potenzialità che questi prodotti, queste tradizioni, questi prodotti hanno a livello socio-economico. Quindi dobbiamo renderci conto della necessità di promuovere i nostri prodotti, i nostri servizi a livello di turismo e di altri settori. Per questo motivo abbiamo cominciato a lavorare sulla dichiarazione per la dieta mediterranea affinché potesse raggiungere una maggiore visibilità la dieta mediterranea in senso olistico, come dicevo prima. La dichiarazione sulla dieta mediterranea è molto importante, nel senso che con questa dichiarazione innanzitutto vogliamo difendere la dieta, vogliamo capire come poter lavorare per sostenere questo strumento molto potente per l'economia, la società e la cultura del Mediterraneo. È una dieta sana, salubre, una dieta che appunto si correla alle tradizioni, le mantiene. E poi non solo dobbiamo però difendere la dieta mediterranea con questa dichiarazione, ma anche conservarla. Perché? Abbiamo tante tradizioni, abbiamo tanti rituali, anche le nostre abitudini alimentari, no? Molto spesso certe cipolle, per esempio, molto grandi che noi consumiamo in Spagna, le mangiamo in un modo particolare, quindi c'è tutta una tradizione attorno ad esse. La cultura di conservare le abitudini alimentari non significa però non essere aperti all'innovazione e a ciò che è nuovo, senza dimenticare però le tradizioni. Dobbiamo trovare un equilibrio senza minare le nostre culture, ma essendo aperti a contributi di altre culture e innovazioni. Infine, un altro obiettivo, non è che sia l'ultimo, sono tutti alla pari questi obiettivi, vogliamo promuovere la dieta mediterranea. Come diceva Marco, la dieta mediterranea e il progetto si possono correlare a delle opportunità commerciali, quindi ecco il senso della promozione qui, perché in ultima analisi la dieta mediterranea crea opportunità per nuovi servizi, nuovi prodotti, diciamo con il sigillo della dieta mediterranea come marchio. In questo modo potremo favorire produttori locali, aziende locali, in modo da spingere le loro attività tramite il riconoscimento della dieta mediterranea. Se si aderisce a questa dichiarazione, si vuole difendere, conservare e promuovere la dieta mediterranea. Quello che vogliamo è che la dichiarazione sulla dieta mediterranea diventi un qualche cosa che appartenga alla comunità delle amministrazioni pubbliche, ospedali, ONG, organizzazioni, università, aziende private, fiere, feste, ma anche consumatori, cioè i singoli soggetti che ogni giorno devono veder riconosciuta questa dieta. Io penso che tanti di voi presenti abbiano interesse proprio ai forum che sta organizzando Caltanissetta e tanti di voi siano interessati alla dichiarazione, a unirsi ad essa e promuovere la dieta mediterranea. Grazie mille.
Thank you, Neos. Grazie, Neos. Chiarissimo e lucidissimo.
Neos, very clear. We're really very much in line. We are on the same page. Can you stay with us? I hope you can follow the presentations, and we're going to comment on the declaration. Our intention is to have it adopted largely here in Sicily. And by the way, the whole documentation is also available in Italian. Natale Giordano, who's the project manager for the Caltanissetta activities, will explain to us how to sign the declaration and will give us examples of what is being done elsewhere in other regions. Thank you very much, Jesse. I can stay here. Please allow me to thank Neos, with whom I shared 3.5 years of work. And it's really a great joy to me that she has given such a decisive contribution to the success of our initiative. She has said it all. I know she's very good, she's very accurate and precise. What I will add is simply an addition to what Neos said. Neos, I can see you, you're very fit. It's a pleasure to see you. And also, hello to you from the person you called Marco, but he is Francesco. He is the councillor from the municipality of Caltanissetta. He is the person who is following both projects, the regional one and also MDNet, together with the other councillor, La Mensa. Therefore, as you can see, there is an impact on the local territory in Sicily. In spite of the delays that are not due to Caltanissetta, because the pandemic stopped our activities and prevented us from being active in the project. We were only able to enter the project in April 2020. I will repeat a few things that you have already mentioned, and I will show connection to the website where one can sign the declaration. Here with us, as Francesco and Pepe know, we have a whole army of public and private organizations, profit and non-profit organizations that are ready to sign the declaration. I'd like to ask the help desk to show us the first PowerPoint, which is taken from the website where the declaration is promoted. So we'll wait for the PowerPoint presentation. Here it is. Med Diet Declaration. This is the point, the starting point for today. It's a consequence of what we did yesterday, because yesterday we focused on being a community, and today this community must show that it has common elements, not only locally in central Sicily, with a great job done by Caltanissetta, but also recognize all common points and the whole Mediterranean identity, a lifestyle that, as Neos said, most rightly coincides with the Mediterranean identity. Therefore, I would like to turn to the next slide, which is what Neos was saying. Also, the World Health Organization recommends this as a nutritional style for a healthy life. But we perfectly know, and we know because we have discussed this several times during the past days, We know that UNESCO provides us with a very clear snapshot of the Mediterranean lifestyle. I'm sorry, but I don't see the slide on the screen. This identity is represented not only now that the FAO, UNESCO, the WHO have recognized it, but it's been present for longer. It's a whole set of competencies, skills, rituals, symbols, traditions linked to culture, landscapes, lifestyles, and way of working. They do characterize this model, which is a unique development model. It's a way of living, a lifestyle. We don't necessarily have to look for development only. We should look for civil progress. This is what I would call it. And the tool we are using takes us or guides us towards progress and not necessarily towards development, so-called development. Therefore, I would like our community from Caltanissetta and Central Sicily to identify itself with this statement. As signatories to the Med Diet Declaration, we recognize the values and cultural practices inherent in the Mediterranean diet and strongly support the efforts of the MDNet project to obtain greater visibility and holistic awareness of the Mediterranean diet in all its dimensions: food production, but also health, culture, education, which is a basic pillar that we will discuss tomorrow, the economy, tourism, rural development, and sustainability. And why not the landscape itself? So the Med Diet Declaration aims at giving greater visibility and importance to the Mediterranean diet from all points of view that we mentioned. Signing the declaration is an opportunity for local and regional stakeholders to show their social role and their support for a Mediterranean identity, which has to be relaunched so that the lifestyle that we rely our actions on becomes a rediscovered lifestyle, a lifestyle re-experienced and rediscovered by all our communities. Therefore, the invitation is to become part of this enlarged, extended community, which shows that you can play an active role. You don't simply sign the declaration and that's it. But by signing the declaration, you become an ambassador, an actor of a lifestyle. For this reason, we will now visit these websites. You can find the declaration here under this link, and also there is a form here that you can sign. Let's visit the website now and let's see what we see. Physically, this is what you see. This is the first screen, the first page where you can see what Neus just described. And then we already have some signatories. I'm sending a plea from here, especially to Francesco and Beppe, so that the region of Sicily, which has no flags yet, the region of Sicily has signatories as well. We want to have a Sicily full of flags on this map. And now please show me how to sign the declaration. Here you have the form, And through this form, it only takes 2 minutes to fill it out. You will become actors and ambassadors of the Mediterranean diet. I'm sorry, Jesse, for taking some of your time, but I would like to conclude with one of the implementations of our partners concerning the Mediterranean diet. You can find it in the YouTube channel of md.net Interreg, which is a wonderful work in 5 episodes. It was made by our Croatian partners. We will show you this for 15 seconds. Each video lasts between 10 and 15 minutes. I think we should use our time in a different way so that we can involve all our local and regional partners so that they sign the declaration. We won't show the video entirely, just 15 seconds to give you an idea of what this audiovisual material is like.
Grazie.
Grazie a te, Natale.
Thank you, Natale. You can say that it's nothing complicated, but very important. I really like the video. Now we have to work in our park as well. Let's bring people together. Now, I would like to give the floor back to Francesco Nicoletti, who will explain why this declaration is important for us. Thank you, Jesse. First of all, I would like to say hi to Neos. We met in Seville. I don't know if you're still listening. I'm glad to see you, Neos. Please, I asked the technicians to send some pictures, some shots of the theater. This is where we have been organizing this 5-day event on the Mediterranean lifestyle. What unites us. We are here to celebrate what unites us. The Mediterranean Sea unites us. We heard this morning that the sea is sometimes used as a way to divide peoples, but actually it has always united peoples. And when we came to Seville, we could really understand, grasp the importance of your project. That was the first time we met. I remember a wonderful evening when we exchanged our views and points of view. This international partnership is something that enriches us. Before becoming partners of the project, we were already working on the Mediterranean Lifestyle Park. And then as we were involved in the project, we found out how we could implement our idea. We can really learn a lot from the international scenario. And we heard about this joint statement of the MDNet project. And I am confident that all of our public and private partners that will take part in the project will sign this statement. We are going to embrace the international dimension, and I'm confident that in the coming days, we are certainly going to sign this joint statement, because if we had this idea, it's because we already believed that this is the right path. So I'm confident that all the local stakeholders will sign it. Well, it will probably take some time for the local authorities to sign the document, because it is always a bit lengthy for local administrations to sign something, but I'm sure that the private stakeholders will sign the document. I'm confident that in Sicily you will find a lot of flags of entities that signed the document. So I would like to hug Neos. We would be happy to be a part of the project, as you did from the very beginning. So we came in a bit late, but we start slow, but then we catch up very quickly.
The common popular, we have a common sentence.
Beh, si dice spesso no, meglio tardi che mai. Quindi se si vuole costruire se volete costruire una comunità molto forte, sarete sicuramente i benvenuti. È importante avere persone come voi che credono tanto in questo progetto per tutelare e promuovere il patrimonio culturale. Quindi siete sempre benvenuti, anche se siete arrivati un po' più tardi, sicuramente rafforzate la nostra comunità.
Grazie. Grazie Neus.
Francesco,
Grazie mille.
Quanti sono i comuni, le municipalità?
Noi attualmente...
How many municipalities are involved in the park? Just to give you an idea, Neus, we have been able to involve 105 municipal administrations so far, more than 150 entities from the public-private partnership and third sector.
Now in the first position of our...
Siete partiti più tardi, però adesso ormai siete in pole position tra i partner. Avete coinvolto tantissimi attori, complimenti.
La cosa importante è che siamo tutti in pole position, tutti insieme.
The thing is that we are all in pole position, here and in the whole MDNet network. We share a common goal, and which is to spread this lifestyle all around the world. And we are the ones who have to do it, because the Mediterranean lifestyle belongs to many people in the Mediterranean. So we need really to reach a global audience. We heard this morning that embracing a Mediterranean diet reduces the carbon footprint of an individual by 10%, and that's what we should strive to underline, to export this lifestyle. Of course, there are some differences across the Mediterranean region, but that's a good thing, and we should respect each other. But of course, we have something in common. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Grazie a tutti, grazie Neos. Ora avremo il nostro panel.
Thank
Beppe,
you,
vuoi
Neos? No, we have our round table. I don't know if Beppe would like to say something. I don't know if Neos is still listening. But I would like to go back to what Jesse Marsh said a few minutes ago, the park exists. Let's be clear. Okay, it took us some time, 21 months, okay. There may be a lot of justifications. Well, we advanced slowly, but that was our choice. We decided to create this park, and we are determined to turn it into reality. We reflected on 30 years of local development. I would like to remind you that maybe the only democratic movement that has ever existed in Sicily for the socio-economic aspect is what I define the local economic development movements. But the national dimension didn't recognize the importance of these movements. I remember an undersecretary telling me, well, you're organizing all of these beautiful events. But you're basically competing one against the other. But our movement is a movement that resists the negative aspects of globalization. I know that our children are going to curse us because of the negative impact of globalization. We said to each other, we need to be more systematic and maybe build something new. So we decided that we had to create a network of maybe 1,000 small things to build something more systematic. So we're not waiting for the United States of Europe, the new United Nations, but we start from the local dimension. We are proud of our identity. So we start from schools, from local parks. We are here for a sort of patriotic event. Yesterday, we had a very intense day, which had started earlier as I read Mr. Loverso's book. In the afternoon, there was a meeting of farmers elsewhere in Sicily, so I felt like I had to go there. We came back in the late afternoon, but we could find nowhere to eat. There was no restaurant open. The whole town was closed. So it was a sort of schizophrenic scenario. We have a very ambitious project, but if you think about it, it's just a matter of promoting networking between different small dimensions. We have already everything, from the creativity of everyone. And this should start from this should be done with a bottom-up approach. It should not be an elitist approach. Formally speaking, we began just a couple of days before the lockdown in Italy, so we were really unlucky in that. But together with Francesco and other friends and colleagues, in 12 months, we organized 903 meetings and webinars. For hours, we listened to each other, 903 meetings. It was a lot of work. We held also 72 physical meetings. We visited a lot of small villages, even the ones where Giuseppe Tornatore shot some of his films. So 72 meetings plus 903 online meetings and webinars. Of course, we had to follow all precautions, even during these physical meetings, these in-person meetings. We had to deal with this pandemic, which was unfortunately caused by the human destruction of nature. I'm not going to dwell upon what the Italian government is doing to deal with the pandemic. But let me tell you that it was really difficult to organize a network with different entities and individuals. We tried to bring together landscape designers, and other professionals. We worked generously, and I'm really using the adjective generous because I mean it. But we are proud of what we have done so far. And now we're going to work with Jesse Marsh to find also a legal framework to organize all of this movement we have generated in the past year. Jesse for us is a methodologist, even a theologist, so to say. So we're going to create a legal association, and we're going to create a sort of parliament of the park with free representation of all the stakeholders. My friend here, the director of the park, is a very dedicated person. When I asked him if he had some material about the possibility of creating a park, he sent me 600 pages. So just to give you an idea of what he had been thinking in the past years. From an organizational point of view, we had some very long discussions. about the best legal status, maybe a foundation. Of course, we will have to publish a call for tenders. We're going to do it very quickly. In the past, we have already proven that we can be successful when elaborating projects. And I'm confident that we will do the same in this on this occasion as well. We are going to promote an effective and successful partnership where each party serves the other.
Vedrete, ognuno di voi ha dato un contributo enorme di progettazione.
Each and every one of you made a significant contribution to the project. We are still open for proposals, but of course, at some point we will have to make a summary, which we will have to present to the government. Anyway, we have a large folder with ideas and proposals. You heard it this morning already when we talked about also the well-being parameters. We received the package of proposals, for instance, from Musumeli, from the municipality of Musumeli, which is very interesting. There is the director of the archaeological park from Gela and Caltanissetta, who made an enormous amount of work. So we just have to bring everything together. We need to act as good politicians who bring out the best and who make the most of the talents and resources that already exist. We need to be good leaders. This morning, I talked to Mr. Puglisi. I asked him to work with us and to promote teamwork. Let's be honest, he had a very successful career. He really played a significant role in having Italy being awarded so many World Heritage Sites. And now, I'm not saying that he should be our enlightened dictator, but now we need to get down to business. The park exists already. Now, together with Jesse, we need to raise this project, to raise this child, this newborn, and to help this park grow. Unfortunately, our project was a bit slowed down by COVID. Now, I don't want any alibi, but it's undeniable that COVID slowed us down a bit. We are in the middle of this 5-day event, and I would like to say that this has been a very successful meeting so far, mainly thanks to the help of the MDNet team. Of course, it is not always easy to work as a group and to bring together different entities and stakeholders. Now, we have this large park, and we need to use all of this energy to work with the MD net network. And of course, the first thing to do would be to sign the joint statement. I think it won't be a problem to collect the signatures of the joint statement because we all agree on the principles. They're basically the same we have for our project. Then after we collect the signatures, we need to actually implement the project and to truly defend the Mediterranean diet and promote it. My grandfather, my father had Mediterranean diet. They weren't aware of it. I wasn't aware of it. Now we are aware of the wealth we have. Now we have some scientific information about the Mediterranean diet. And what we need to do is to defend the Mediterranean diet. Defend in the military sense of the word. And in the military, you need to be active, you need to move. So the defense of the Mediterranean diet should become a sort of obsession, a sort of war for us. So the first thing we have to do is to keep all traditional farms open. Because maybe a lot of people are not aware of it, but many of the traditional farms of Sicily have already closed down. But we have to defend our civilization. Now the rural culture is being rediscovered. We are going to invite the biggest genius of real agriculture, an expert from the Netherlands. We're all in our 70s, but we're still very active. And this Dutch expert is always very busy, but we will certainly have him here. To go back to the joint statement, we are going to have everyone sign it. We need to be very committed, collectively committed. We need to be a sort of army working together. We should help each other. All institutions should help each other. This morning I said that Mrs. Foti should be re-elected because of her commitment for the good of the Mediterranean diet. What is important is for politics to work for the good of the people. We don't care about right or left, center. What's important is to work for the good of everyone, of the community. Everyone should sign this joint statement. And but signing it means that you also need to work to implement it. And what we need to do is to involve everyone and go beyond political barriers. So let's try to bring together all of our efforts. With regard to the idea of a Mediterranean agency, I think this is something feasible. This morning I said that it is necessary to bring efforts together. Thank you, Beppe. Now, let's move on. It's important to turn to the contents, to the substance of the idea, because what you, Natale, Francesco, and I have been doing is important. But over the past 5 days, we heard a lot of people, a lot of speakers, and this is the park. So the park does exist. And this is a very important statement. It is a way to say that this international network exists. And we really need to be united to defend the Mediterranean diet. Jesse, I would like to underline one thing which may sound trivial. In 3 years, we decided that the defense of the Mediterranean diet had to be one of the pillars of our project. That means that there is an attack on the Mediterranean diet, a global attack against civilizations that would like to eliminate all differences. So what we have to do is to resist the a global homogenization that doesn't take differences into account. And let me go back to the UNESCO and to the Convention on the Protection of Diversity, not only biodiversity. We have repeatedly stated that in the Mediterranean, there is 20% of global biodiversity. But we should also preserve diversity in terms of identity. An identity which was created over centuries of cultural traditions. We need to rediscover our ancient Greek, ancient Roman roots, our roots from the Middle East. That's what we need to do. We need to defend all of this from an attack which is aimed at annihilating all differences. So we are resisting all of this. Now let's move on to the panel. We have to defend different lines, and there are already a lot of individuals and organizations that are doing their best to protect and defend cultural heritage. I would first invite Mr. Luigi Gattuso to take the floor. You can come one by one on stage. Now it begins to look like a panel. We have with us Mr. Gattuso, Mr. Fabrizio Ferreri, Mrs. Maria Iacono, Mr. Claudio Gambino, Mr. Giuseppe Paulito, Mr. Santo Morabito, Mr. Calogero Pernacci, Mr. Hermano Pascualino, Mrs. Hermana Trovato, and Mr. Nino Sutera, who is connected online. So we have a very large panel.
Questo ci state? Architetto Gattuso, the floor is yours.
Mr. Gattuso, the floor is yours. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting the Archaeological Park of Gela. I would also like to congratulate you on the impressive work. I am really impressed by the quality and quantity of what you have achieved so far. When you take part in a panel, you always think about a speech or what to say, but after listening to the introduction, I immediately thought about what we're going through. We're talking about Mediterranean lifestyle and Mediterranean diet. I was thinking about the fact that now that the world is under the threat of coronavirus, Italy is in the best possible position. Is it just by chance, or is it due to lifestyle? I believe that nothing happens by chance, but this has been possible thanks to the lifestyle we have in Italy. Of course, government decisions also played a role, but they're not enough because the government makes a decision and then governance comes into play. The lifestyle is not just about a diet, but the diet is an aspect of all of our lives, of our activities, the way we live in the territory. We often believe that Italy ranks last in many aspects, but actually this is not always the case. We need to bring theory and practice together. I am the director of an archaeological park, so and actually when I talk about the park, I prefer to use the plural because I am only the director, but there is a whole group of people working with me for the best of this archaeological park. The park was has been recently founded, and it works together with the superintendent's office. But why was it necessary to create the archaeological park of Gela? Because we not only need to protect, but we also need to move forward and to defend, to promote culture. And let me now talk about intangible culture. Well, actually, culture is tangible in itself because if we see something but we is intangible, because if we cannot perceive the essence of a monument, of a landscape, then we are not actually understanding its nature, its identity. So what should we do in our park? Beppe De Santis said that yesterday he came back to Caltanissetta a bit late, and he wasn't even able to find an open restaurant because everyone was sleeping. So what we need to do is to try to revitalize this territory. There is some potential here. When I was appointed as the director of the archaeological park, the park is based in Gela, but it actually includes some sites in the province of Caltanissetta. We had 10,000 visitors as against 1 million visitors in Agrigento and 500,000 in Piazza Armerina. Now, if you think about it, this would discourage anyone because the difference is huge. But if we look at what happens in Agrigento and Piazza Armerina, unfortunately, neither Agrigento nor Piazza Armerina have an economic benefit. Villa del Casale is slightly less, is located less than 5 kilometers away from the center of Piazza Armerina, but the hotels are closed. Actually, they're sometimes used to host migrants. It is still useful, but it is not the role for which they were founded. And Piazza Armerina would actually be a nice little town, but from a tourist point of view, it is a desert. And the same holds true for Agrigento, because in Agrigento, there are also people going to the beach. But those who go there to visit the Valley of the Temples only go there, and they don't go to the old town of Agrigento. So they leave in the morning from Palermo or another Sicilian town. So they just see the Valley of the Temples. They don't even visit the museum, and they just take the bus back. They go to Piazza Armerina and they visit the archaeological site, but they don't visit the rest of the area. So what is the difference between us and them? The difference lies in the fact that we are not well organized, but we can start from one of our strengths of our territory, because Caltanissetta is in the center of Sicily. And if you think about it, even Gela is right at the middle of the southern shore. So from Gela, in a couple of hours, you can reach both Siracusa and Trapani. The same can be done from Mussomeli, especially if we are able to build, to improve the infrastructure. Now, we usually think about our central position, believing that the other Sicilians should come to Caltanissetta or Mussomeli or Gela. This is not the case, because if you go to other Sicilian towns, for instance, people from Ragusa don't take a car to go and visit other regions, other parts of the region. It's not like us in Caltanissetta, because for us it's not a problem to take a car and drive for 1.5 hours. We are in a central position, and we should be smart enough to attract tourists in Germany, France, England, take them here to sleep here. So we must offer them accommodation, then visit the rest of Sicily, using Caltanissetta and the surroundings as their base. This would revitalize the buildings we have, the hotels we have. So we should become a sort of reception center. And this is what I've been working on in the past 2 years. We now have a budget in our archaeological park. This is a project that began in 2019. And what we are doing in the archaeological park is exactly what Beppe De Santis is talking about. It is something that I began to think about 25, 30 years ago, and which Beppe De Santis is now continuing. We have analyzed all of our cultural heritage to understand its potential, and now we need to move to the operational stage, which is what we are doing in the park. We are doing the same at the environmental level. It is something we should never forget. The park has 850 hectares of land. This land is protected because of the presence of archaeological remains, but now we are working in order to plant new vegetation in order to improve the appearance of the area. But we also would like to bring about microclimatic changes that would rebuild the environmental conditions that existed before deforestation. When you travel around our territory, you often see areas without trees. Is it naturally possible? No, because these trees were removed. They were cut down in the past. So what we need to do is to plant new trees and to plant brambles. And the archaeological park of Gela is doing that to promote, enhance its territory and to improve, if possible, the environmental situation as well. We need to work with the context, because if I only work on the 23 sites which have been assigned to me, then I would have not understood my real task. And my real task is to plant a seed which would help bring together cultural heritage and economic development. So we should become independent. we're certainly going to work in order to collect public funds, but we also want to collect private funds that are currently held in banks. Thank you.
May I add something which can be useful to all of us? The Mediterranean Lifestyle Park is a large framework encompassing all the excellent examples in the territory. Every one of you represents an entity, an organization which is pursuing their tasks, but the park was established to govern complexity, as Professor Butera's book says. You know, so far we've had parallel paths not meeting each other. So what we are doing within the park is to put together inside the same framework all the excellent examples of this region so that there is contamination and cross-contamination among them, so network of the networks, in order to create a sort of army to fight for certain things. I'd like to ask the speakers to stick to 5-10 minutes so that we can give everybody the possibility to take the floor. Now, Fabrizio Ferreri from the Observatory of Small Municipalities in Sicily. Over to you. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I can stick to the 5 minutes. I might be even quicker. Let me briefly introduce myself. I have two hats. I work for a couple of large entities at the interface between the academic world and the associations, and I deal with the inland areas for them. I'm part of the Territory Association based in Florence, and then for Riabitare l'Italia, I carry out research in specific inland areas, and for the Milan Polytechnic, I'm the person in charge in Sicily of the Young Researchers Network. This explains the reason why I'm interested in this initiative. What's my point of view and our point of view within my organizations? In the hinterland, we have a lot of small municipalities, and the situation is really disappointing from the point of view of the services of the labor market, and also socially from the point of view of personal growth and leisure time. Too little opportunities are offered in spite of what is said. Certainly this has an explanation because of certain hard elements that are available in those areas. But then, you know, there is also another side of the coin. In other words, these places are the subject of desire, of the imagination of people. We tried to analyze all this because this is the basis for the desire to stay and to become rooted in these areas. So in various areas, we have organized workshops, narration workshops, to rediscover the resources that are typical of each area. You can stay only if you have a feeling that the place belongs to you, but to do so, you have to recognize the place. A couple of publications by Dario Flacovio Publishing House were the result of all this work that we carried out in order to rediscover the local identities. I'll be really very, very brief because there are many of us up here, and there has to be room for everybody, so I want to be brief. Why in the park? Because it offers exactly the framework and the setting within which we can narrate about certain identities. Of course, identity to us means something regenerative, something inclusive, and not exclusive. So from an abstract point of view, we are interested in this project because we believe it has a strength, the strength of narrating new things and new elements, leading to the fact that people may want to stay in the area. We would like to give visibility to the various narratives on a common basis. We think we should form a sort of house of poetry and arts of the Mediterranean area, with the possibility to narrate the territories in a different way, a new way, starting from this perspective, the Mediterranean in its different meanings. Over to you again. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. And also, I would say it goes back to what architect Gattuso previously said. We have to rediscover many small identities. Let's now hear from Dr. Giuseppe Paulito from TED Trip. Thank you and good evening, everybody. Yes, what has just been said is really very interesting. Fabrizio spoke of narratives. So narratives are fundamental in relation to the territories with regard to tourism and experiential tourism. TED stands for Travel Emotion Designer. And together with a colleague, we set up this project, which is a platform for selling experience tourism services. So what should we do when we reach a destination? There are difficulties of finding alternatives online. One of the communities, Arrival, dealing with experiential activities worldwide, has told us that only 30% of the tourist activities can be bought online. This is a real limitation. We have to go beyond. We know very well that travelers are increasingly digital. They assess the reviews and the comments in social media, and they want to buy online as well. The digital world allows us to do some storytelling, not only orally, but also visually through images. The TED Trip project was already presented to our friends from the park. There's a platform for selling tourist services and also a training course for TEDs, for designers, travel experience designers, because we have realized that the travel activities proposed to the travelers don't have experience characteristics, travel experience characteristics. You don't learn something all the time. Usually travelers are not involved in an active way travelers are not informed about the real essence of the place they are in. We can't afford this. As mentioned several times, we need to defend the Mediterranean culture. We have to protect it. Tourist operators must have the possibility to do so. You shouldn't think of a travel agency, of a tourist guide, only a travel escort or whatever. You have to think of crafts people promoting their products, handing down their art, presenting it to the rest of the world. I mean, in areas such as Sicily, because of the history and culture found locally, the Park of Mediterranean Lifestyles is certainly the best framework within which to promote healthy forms of tourism and also sustainable tourism. You know, travel experience tourism is sustainable per se. Otherwise, they would be of no value. This is what we need. The world of tourism needs all this because we have gone through a deep crisis. People can't travel anymore. We have to reactivate the circulation of emotions, and this is what the travelers will do in the near future. Thank you very much. All these three presentations have something in common. There's also great demand for experiences linked to the territory. TripAdvisor and Airbnb try and meet this demand, but they can't say anything about our history. The park is a good way to develop all this so as to create some literacy around our identity, or your identity, if you like. I'm a migrant here. Now, Mrs. Iacono from Libero Consorzio Agrigento. Thank you. Well, I'm speaking on behalf of Libero Consorzio. I work in an office, the Department of Community Policies. Even if we experience challenges due to turnover issues within the public administration, and also because of the fact that Liberi Consorzi do not have the administrative activity they are supposed to have. Well, in spite of all this, I can see things from a special observatory, as other speakers said, also on previous days. We see that we could do much more for our territories if we were targeted towards them and focused more on them. On the other hand, I believe, and I think I can say this to its own right, I believe that within the public sector, there are professionals who can promote activities that are quite visionary, such as those envisaged by the park. We desperately need this. I think that intermediate bodies such as ours should help the local areas to develop certain proposals that are necessary for the local area itself, coordinating certain activities that are required for this purpose. I'm particularly thinking of the mayors. You know, they're making tremendous efforts. In the past 25 years, mayors have always been elected directly by the citizens. They carry an enormous responsibility. I can say so because I was the mayor of Caltabellotta in the province of Agrigento. I think it's the most beautiful municipality in the province of Agrigento, though Sambuca would like to have this title. It's got it's got thousands of years of history. A great architect I met in Favara when they invented the experience of the 7 courtyards, told me you still have to investigate that part of your area, which goes back to the roots of the European Union, so something that goes beyond Sicily, beyond Italy. I think this is very important. I believe that our municipalities have become depopulated, but they still have a lot to say. We currently use the new technologies, but maybe we are not aware of details about the history of our areas. Broadly speaking, I mean, not the history, the literature, or events which have characterized the historiography, but other details which can become glues or the glue of a territory. That's why the park is an idea that I like. It's the beginning of an idea, of a vision, but above all, it is a unifying element in Sicily. We strongly need this, I think. We have to pool our efforts. We have to think of a joint path towards development, and this must be implemented through all the elements that we've been stressing so far. For example, the Mediterranean diet and other aspects that have been repeated several times here. These are common unifying elements. I think that the local governments have to join efforts as well. Because of a general political crisis, because of the negative impact of globalization affecting the weakest areas, etc., we can now write a different story. I think the conditions are available for opening up new horizons to our territory. Thank you. Thank you. The park, therefore, as a facilitating setting with the possibility of exchanging information and know-how. If you have a framework within which such an exchange is promoted, then you can obtain great results and outcomes. Let me add, if I may, that I was involved in the law on tourist railways or railroads, rediscovering the territory, our values, our landscape, our immaterial assets. Another point which should be rediscovered, in my opinion, I know that a lot has been done in this respect, but I think we should really rediscover this element, is the following. Sicily has a lot of abandoned mining sites. They are an enormous asset. They should be rediscovered and restored. I think a lot of resources would be necessary for this purpose, but this would mean also rediscovering what was around the mining sector in general. And now, since she has to leave earlier, I'd like to hand it over to Giovanna Bona, the president of Soroptimist Caltanissetta. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for having us here this afternoon. Soroptimist Caltanissetta is involved in this high-value project. Ours is an international club. My task will be to disseminate this project to other clubs as well, not just in Sicily, because we must become aware of our identity as a whole. I'm part of those who are, so to say, ignorant about certain initiatives that have taken place. You know, I worked in the healthcare sector, and then I visited schools, talking to the students, and I do believe that in order to promote a Mediterranean lifestyle, we have to make people aware of our culture and of the Mediterranean lifestyle. And we have to start from childhood, because it has to become natural to them. You know, at my age, you know, people may already lose dreams. We become more pragmatic, and we believe that nothing will change, but it's the young people we should leverage on, the young generation. This is the starting point. As Soroptimist, we will sign the declaration, the Mediterranean Diet Declaration, immediately. I'll be in Enna tomorrow. I will meet other people from our club, and I will talk to them so that everybody participates in this initiative. We're ready to participate in any initiative you may undertake, because we strongly believe in this. We believe this is our task. This is going to be our legacy for the future. Thank you very much. I apologize, but I have another commitment. Thank you. Thank you for this important contribution. That declaration is a glue which is common to all these interventions and comments. And now over to Professor Claudio Gambino, who is the president of the DEA District of Morgantina.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I would like to start from with the basic observation, why I embrace this idea of an innovative park. This is something I got familiar with during my previous term at the district of Dea di Morgantina. Already in 2016, as I told Francesco and Beppe when we met, I wrote a book in which I shortly presented a wider project concerning the trail of ancient know-how and flavors. So it was a way to promote intangible heritage of Central Sicily. The Mediterranean diet was recognized by the UNESCO as a World Heritage Asset. And the UNESCO Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage is something that dates back to a few decades earlier, not only 2003. It was when Bolivia highlighted the importance of folklore. Then, of course, there is also the geopolitical dimension, because some states were left outside the UNESCO and they wanted to join the organization. So after the initiative of Bolivia, UNESCO began to elaborate a way to enhance intangible cultural heritage and oral heritage. I wasn't able to listen to the presentation of Mr. Puglisi, but I'm sure that is explained that UNESCO starts from other goals, in particular spreading literacy, awareness, and knowledge of these traditions. And we should not have a deterministic approach, because the park is not a car. It is not a machine, but as the MD.NET delegate said, we need to have a holistic approach. Because Mr. Butera very well explained that the park embraces a wide area, and it will become a large cultural space. And that's in line with the basic principles of the UNESCO Convention. We need to be able to demonstrate that we can valorize, turn into something valuable, something that is intangible. But this doesn't mean a mere economic speculation. This would be a mistake. This may be a tool, but not the end. It is not just about marketing Mediterranean products, but as we said, Mediterranean diet has to do with lifestyle. It's something more than just eating. And the district of the Dea di Morgantina should grow, and we already have a 3-year strategic plan for its development in order to map also through GIS tools all the elements of the cultural identity of our territory. I am also the chairman of the Association of Sicilian Geographers, and we are working with schools in order to promote food education. I was recently in the Federico II school, where I explained that our archaeological heritage also shows what our intangible cultural heritage is, because there we can already find some elements of the narrative about food and the Mediterranean diet. And this is exactly what the UNESCO asks us to do, that is to valorize intangible assets. Francesco always says about the park that he's working for his children, for future generations, and that's the right approach. We have taken so much out of the earth that it is now time to give something back. The seeds we are sowing now will bear fruit to the future generations. We have to be farsighted. We not only need to focus on the marketing of a product, what we need to do is to promote the value of a community, of its identity. That's exactly what we're doing here, as we have a lot of representatives of the civil society, and we should start from the center of Sicily to embrace the rest of the region. Thank you. Thank you. You're always mentioning narrative. Now, I'm the director of an applied geography and mapping laboratory, so I would be happy to work together with you. I think it would be useful to have a shared platform also in that regard. Actually, with your laboratory, we organized a very successful meeting. We presented the park at the national level. Now you are here as on your capacity as the president of the district of the Dea di Morgantina, but actually you also play a role in the Association of Italian Geographers, and we have been happy of our collaboration with the association in the past. Now we have Giuseppe Paulito from Legambiente Caltanissetta. Giuseppe Paulito from Legambiente Caltanissetta. Thank you very much. I am here also in a twofold capacity because I'm here as an environmentalist. I was involved in the elaboration of the project for the park, but I also chair the local action group of the Caltanissetta area. We have a living lab together with the municipal administration. The mayor, who I see here, involved us in this call for projects. We are going to work on the interaction of new technologies and intangible heritage. This is what we need to do in order to promote the strengths of our territory. Now, I would like to talk about the skills that are needed and the possibility of having examples. Now, we need skills, and it's human beings who have skills. And without the energy of people who study processes, then we cannot be successful. We sometimes participate in very beautiful meetings with very interesting ideas, but then we have to translate these ideas into reality. Now, I elaborated a number of local action plans, strategic plans. I designed the strategic plan for the area of Sciacca, Sambuca, etc. I also drew up the strategic development plan of Modica. So I was involved in the study of the areas which were mature for tourism development. And so I was involved in the elaboration of plans for the economic development of areas with a tourist potential to promote the creation of jobs. L'amministrazione comunale di Caltanissetta in particolar modo, ma con i due coordinatori che sono Francesco Nicoletti e Peppe De Santis, diventa, diciamo, importante concretizzare questa esperienza in qualcosa che possa dare la possibilità di catturare delle we need to find resources to do something practical, because the Mediterranean diet is something intangible. It is a lifestyle.
È la dieta mediterranea nelle sue articolazioni. Anche il professore ha parlato di questo, però io vorrei dare, diciamo, un contributo per portare.
I would like to make a contribution towards being more practical, because this is exactly what we need. I believe we need to elaborate a master plan, a sort of framework where we need to identify the possibility of turning our idea into something real. We really need to be very down to earth, and in order to do so, we need to start from schools. There are very few territories where school canteens use local products. And this is something that the municipality of Caltanissetta is trying to promote. It is really one of the elements we need to promote if we want to foster a healthier lifestyle and the Mediterranean diet. We need to start from schools by using products that are made in the surroundings. So that would be a practical idea. Secondly, I would like to make to address the issue of examples. Mr. Gattuso was saying that in Caltanissetta there are a lot of funds stuck in banks, and in Caltanissetta there are private individuals who have saved a lot of money. They keep that money in the banks, but they don't invest in the area. Why? Why don't they invest? They could invest in tourism. They could invest to make experiences similar to the ones made in nearby municipalities such as Favara. There it was thanks to a patron that something was done. Now, this may be a good or negative example, but what is important is to involve people and to have them invest in a new development model. And we really need to build on the investments of private individuals so that they can restore buildings, bed and breakfast, apartments. The public sector can hardly replace the capitals, the funds of private individuals. I look at the huge effort made by Beppe and Francesco and of the whole administration of Caltanissetta. I strongly admire what they're doing, and I think we need to also rely on the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which will allow us to carry out some important projects, such as the idea of a bike lane from Caltanissetta to Enna. It is a project that was already awarded 4 million euro for a first connection and for the promotion of sustainable mobility. These are examples for which we should work. I believe we need to work on pilot projects in order to bring an added value to the wider operation that you are carrying out. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I think since I work in co-planning, I believe that the park is a project that invites individuals and entities to think strategically. Thinking strategically is a collective skill. You cannot call an expert. It is the whole community that should think about doing something together. Well, of course, you need to channel creativity. You need to take into account the technical aspects, and I don't underestimate this. But the starting point is to create an enabling environment where people feel part of something and they feel legitimized to give their opinions and make their proposals. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Santomorabito, President of the Italian Association of Dietetics and Clinical Nutrition. Thank you. I would like to congratulate the municipality of Caltanissetta, your scientific directors. This is a wonderful project. Now, we are here to talk about and work on a dream. But I think this is a dream that can become a reality. Now, I'm a doctor and I'm the chairman of the Italian Association of Dietetics and Clinical Nutrition. It is a scientific association, so we are somewhat different from the other stakeholders that have taken the floor so far. Our association was founded in 1950. In the field of clinical nutrition, we are the leaders, and we are the lead partners of the Italian Federation of Associations on Human Nutrition. We have involved endocrinologists and other professional figures over time. Finally, also oncologists, anesthesiologists, surgeons, because they have all become aware of the importance of diet, of a healthy diet for prevention and treatment as well. Our association comprises nutritional biologists, dietitians. We range from clinical nutrition to artificial nutrition to nutraceutics. Our scientific society is divided into sections. I'm here to represent the Sicilian section, the Sicilian chapter. We have a foundation that funds research, the training of young generations. We also have an award to the top 3 projects in terms of innovation and originality. The award is entitled to Flaminio Fidanza, who is the father, so to say, of Mediterranean diet. He's the one who designed a tool to measure the compliance with the Mediterranean diet, a model which is used everywhere in the world. I have the honor of being the Secretary General of this foundation. Let me underline a specific aspect. The Mediterranean diet had to go through a difficult period since the 90s. The institutions have invested a lot in marketing. The population was becoming more and more obese, and there was a survey dating back to 1994, 1996 that showed that people were eating an excess of 1,000 calories, whereas the people living in rural areas had the best diet. So together with some colleagues, we began to talk about Mediterraneity. This is a word that we invented, which was a way to identify the complex interactions which the diet has. On 16 November 2010, the Mediterranean diet was included in the list of intangible assets by UNESCO. Now, what we're talking about is handing down the richness, the culture of the Mediterranean diet from one generation to the other. We are not underestimating the importance of goods such as olive oil, cereals, the limited use of meat. They remain. Now, we all know that they are fundamental products for good nutrition, but now we're also aware of their importance for the beauty of the landscape. Now, when we promote the Mediterranean lifestyle, we need to think about physical exercise, physical activity, which doesn't simply mean running, but it means that you live outdoors, and there are other aspects to be taken into account in the framework of a Mediterranean lifestyle. Table with people coming together, sharing food and talking. And the goal, as we are here to talk about, is to promote Mediterranean diet. My daughter lives in a very large building, in a 25-story building in Holland, and yet she very often has to live alone. And she had a vase with a flower, and she moved it from the window to the table, and she had developed a sort of ritual which is similar to the rituals we have when we eat together. And so I believe that we need to rediscover conviviality. We heard about writers. There is a very famous character here in Italy, a detective from Sicily, Salvo Montalbano, likes to eat, but when he is sitting at the table, he likes to eat, not to talk. So we really need to rediscover not only the value of food, but and not only its importance for the health, but also its cultural value. Let me quote now resolution number 5 of the UNESCO. I think we need to develop a sort of network of Mediterranean kitchens, and resolution number 5 states that women play a vital role in handing down know-how, rituals, gestures from one generation to the other. So we always tend to see cultural heritage as a sort of patriarchal thing. But be careful when you write about the role of women in kitchens. It's quite a patriarchal view. But women did play a key role in recognizing which herbs, which vegetables are good, which ones are not. They have been artists, engineers. And let me conclude by giving you a couple of examples, because I truly believe that the role of women should be reassessed. A friend of mine from Filicudi invented a product. Now we all know that pepper has aphrodisiac properties, and she mixed it with other ingredients, and she has been able to successfully sell it under the name of cucucciaga. When the Mediterranean diet was defined in the 50s and 60s, the woman who collected the wheat invented a dish called cuccia, So women used very little meat. They used old bread and created dishes which are considered excellent by scientists today because they are rich in vegetable proteins and low in animal proteins. So today we hear a lot about reusing food scraps. And that's actually what is part of our tradition. And as we move forward, let me tell you that I was impressed by what the councillor said about the example from Molise and the use of the rediscovery of sheep tracks there. And I think that is something we should also do with our own intangible cultural heritage.
Thank you. Very interesting. I must say that within the MDNet project, a business model was studied in terms of the Mediterranean diet being part of healing tourism. And also there's the aspect of green therapy. It was discovered by the Americans watching trees from the windows of the hospitals. Now, if you take a walk in the city, I mean, this is very important in terms of cultural rediscovery. You can see things through different eyes. Even if I've lived in Caltanissetta all the time, I can see the theater in a different way every time I go by, and the same is true in the field for the fields. Yes, I let you have this study. It's very important to talk about the women's role. It's not a form of nostalgia, wanting to go back to the past, but it's an innovation, a cultural innovation, rediscovering new opportunities. Things should not keep unchanged. Lots of things have to change. Having said this, we'll move on now. Thanks for your talk. And now the floor goes to the president of Lions Club Caltanissetta, Mr. Calogero Pernacci. Good evening and welcome. Congratulations for this event. I'm the president of Lions Club this year, and we have added the Caltanissetta territory in our program for this year because we work, we're operational here and we have to refer to the territory. Caltanissetta was the world capital of sulfur mining. We must consider the wealth brought about by sulfur. We'll talk about the rural areas in Caltanissetta and also the social and cultural fabric of Caltanissetta, and then our future. Our territory is rich in agricultural products which are not given the right value to. The Mediterranean diet should be most welcome together with the park, but what is missing in our area is cooperation and teamwork. Previously, we were talking about the closing down of many agricultural farms. Many farms joined in a cooperative to be more competitive, but not really many of them. And networking is not really common. We do not have any efforts in this direction. We've got marvelous works, museums, theaters, etc., that we could show our tourists, but there is no networking. We don't connect the various sectors so that they collaborate, they work together and support tourism, which is the most important asset here. The park will be a tool, but it has to be supported by teamwork. Please be careful, because the park needs tourist operators. The park needs to be considered and known by the businesses that take care of tourism. Sometimes you visit a place on a daily basis and then you leave, because the airports are in Catania and Palermo, and tourists don't live in other parts of our region. Caltanissetta has enormous assets, but people don't invest. How can one possibly invest if there are no development prospects? It's not a problem of the public administration of the local government. The problem is that there is no networking between the agricultural sector, the tourist industry, and other sectors too. You know, the entrepreneurs will not invest if there is no possibility of having a return on their investment. Many restaurants close at night. It is true. Caltanissetta is very special. Perhaps we don't like our city, we don't respect it very much, but no one has ever invested in a historic center to open new restaurants, public places, etc. It's seen as a place occupied by immigrants, no longer accessible to the Caltanissetta citizens. We as citizens don't respect our city center either. I think there is no cooperation to allow investments and to follow a common goal, which is working in a team and generating profit. This is not the case in Caltanissetta. Please remember that Emilia, Toscana, other regions where cooperation started 30 years ago have large farms, large industrial activities and tourist opportunities with very little to offer, but we have more interesting museums like the Santo Spirito Museum, which is visited by no one. The regional authorities spend a lot for the guardians, of the janitors of that museum, but without visitors, because you know, no networking is done with the schools, with the associations. We have a rich area, but in a way it's neglected. We need cooperation, in my point of view. Thank you. Thank you. Architect Gattuso, would you like to say something? Well, I thought I was clear, but probably not. This is the reason the park is developed. The situation used to be, as Mr. Pernacci just told us, we have a heavy past behind our shoulders. We can't simply call people and have them here. Please consider that the museum has a roof with zenith light, but if the light goes through, then also rain does. And we are trying to put a remedy to this. Well, you said we have to involve the schools, but this is something which, well, this falls within the tasks of the education system, but money is required to start all these initiatives. You know, the archaeology parks have to work and carry out scientific research in archaeology, and then also in landscapes, etc. To do this, investments are needed. And I can tell you something to start with. 23 sites, in order to keep sites open with a janitor, one would need 14 people in a continuous turnaround. 14 times 12 times 23 times 40,000 approximately per janitor, then 12.5 million euros would be necessary as public expenditure. You know, archaeology parks are suitable, are precisely set up for this purpose, so that the 12.5 million euros don't come from the public spending, but from the visitors paying a ticket. What you're saying is right, but it's not a point of arrival. It's a starting point. It's exactly the situation that I had to take over. Please consider that Sapuchina was subject to interventions in excess of 14 million euros. And then there was a law in 2000 setting up the parks. It was copied nationwide. And so museums were set up, directed often by foreign directors, improving the income of those museums. I mean, that law was applied everywhere except for Sicily. It was only applied in 2019 because of a councillor who unfortunately then passed away. In the 2000 law, no mention was made to money. Instead, it was only later on that the money aspect was added. And do you know when it became possible to make financial statements and budgets? With the law of 2021, this was envisaged by law, but only small sums. It's like, and it's only in these days that I was able to implement what I had thought of 25 years ago, something that I added to the program when I became the director of the park. It's only in 2021 that I can really get everything started. So your consideration is right, but after an analysis, we need to make a diagnosis and then implement therapy. What we are doing at the moment is treat. What you're saying that we're not networking is right, but when I was thinking of the evening walk of Mr. DeSantis coming to Caltanissetta and not finding a place where to eat. Well, this is what I mean in Marianopoli, in Sotera, in other places, smaller places. You know, if you see what we receive on our desks, the central and peripheral offices, you know, il mignolo, I mean, the small finger, is it a periphery of the body, or is it part of it and has its own function? Very often, certain areas are considered as peripheral. We have to conquer certain spaces. We shouldn't wait until someone says that the small finger has its own function. We are here to play this role. We're here to perform this task. You know, I'm 64. I could retire and I could make more exciting things than what I'm currently doing. But I would like to implement a project that I thought of more than 20 years ago. I have this possibility and I don't want to retire because I think I can have this opportunity. In the press, and I really don't want to polemical now, but you read about abandoned archaeology parks. I mean, when they were abandoned some years ago as well, did you write that article, or were you waiting for the situations to get worse? Well, what they do is wait until the situation gets worse and then they attack you. I couldn't care less. I'm only working for my area. I'm sorry, we have to go on with the other speakers, not to really reduce the importance of what you're saying, but this is what the park is. We have to change the narrative. We have to change our ability to develop a system. And this is what architect Paulito was saying. We need to think of a strategic plan, receive the money, but also have entrepreneurial abilities. It's all linked together. Think about it. Let's move on now. And then I hope there will be some time for a Q&A, which is really very interesting. Next is Hermano Pascualino, president of the Association Torrone di Caltanissetta. Thank you very much for your invitation. Thank you for having me here. And congratulations 3 times, really. I've talked to the councillor several times, and I also know, I've known Mr. DeSantis for a long time. As the bishop said in opening the meeting, he said, you know, this is a prophetic idea. When I heard this the first time, I thought, well, what do they mean by this? It was a spontaneous comment. But on Francesco's suggestion, I decided to participate in the 5 days of the event. I took time off from my work and I participated in all these 4 days, and tomorrow I'll be here for the 5th day. The outcome is really marvelous. I thought I knew a lot, but indeed, I don't know much. I knew only a few things. Now everything is clearer to me. I am a supporter of Professor Zamagni, and I hold Professor Puglisi in high esteem. I didn't know Professor Butera, but the speaker who's here and made a beautiful presentation as well. Everyone contributed in his or her own way, I think this may contribute to implementing this prophetic idea. Well, this morning I was wondering, how many projects did we have? How many projects were implemented and how many are still in the many offices? If we look at the what the speakers said, and it's more than 100 of them, everyone contributed a little bit to this dream, which can become true. So thank you very much. You know, my name is Pascualino. I'm a manager in a multinational company. I have a dream. At the age of 19, I left Caltanissetta. Maybe I was lucky to leave Caltanissetta. I had to pass the state examination, and then I was called for an interview. The company that called me is Conad. Conad is one of the largest cooperatives in Italy. They asked me to have this interview 36 years ago and asked me whether I wanted to be part of restructuring the sales network. I mean, 36 years ago, it was like something crazy. I didn't even appreciate what this was about, but I had to design the new sales network of the future. So going from the small shops to supermarkets, they hired me, and I had my examinations on the 27th of July, and on the 1st of August, I was hired. And then I had 18 months of professional experience and training there. Over that period of 18 months, I had field trials and tests and training on cooperation, everything that I didn't expect to do. And this is why I developed my skills. Cooperation is fundamental. Professor Cavallaro just came to say hello this morning, but he said something important. Caltanissetta, you know, has difficulties in putting people together in order to cooperate. In Conad, I understood what cooperation is. Cooperation is pooling poverties to turn them into richness. Let me tell you about another experience of mine. I had my internship in a Forlì cooperative. More than 900 retail businesses from the Emilia-Romagna coastline were there. Coca-Cola decided to increase their products. The cooperative that included all the businesses, I mean, public places, coffee bars, coffee shops, restaurants, etc., said, no, we don't accept your price because it's really too much. Either you reduce the price or we will not buy from Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola said, we are Coca-Cola, take it or leave it. Coca-Cola went to all the retail sites selling Coca-Cola. Out of 900 businesses, none said, we'll take Coca-Cola. They called Pepsi. They gave them the product. After 2.5 years, Coca-Cola came back with 20% less than the price they wanted. They had quoted 2 years before. Why am I saying this? Because this project is marvelous. It's prophetic, but it's only the combination of all partners that wins. The 3 pillars, the private sector, the public sector, and the associations. It's only these three pillars that can turn this prophetic idea into something really happening. In the last 2 decades, I've worked for a multinational in the food industry. We are world leaders in a certain product. What Professor Moro was saying this morning inspired me, having a vision. Leaving Sicily, I was able to observe Sicily, because if you are in Sicily, you cannot watch Sicily properly. And I thought, what is the product which best represents Caltanissetta? No doubt it's the Caltanissetta Torrone. Well, it's more than 400 years of history. In Caltanissetta, we have historical data. There were workshops in Caltanissetta downtown where there were boilers and burners with huge amounts of pistachios and almonds. It's not by chance that the Torrone was born in Caltanissetta. Many people think it's croccantino, it's something different. Well, this is what we learned from our grandmothers. Take a pan, take some sugar and the almonds. But this is not what Torrone is. It's a high-value product because 400 years ago in Sicily, apart from having almond tree fields, we also had pistachio fields and honey. The rich Moncada family in their shopping list included these three products that were in the garden next to their residence. The Arabs took pistachios here to the province of Caltanissetta. The Bronte pistachios, you know, they come from the grafts of Caltanissetta. So really, the Torrone of Caltanissetta is just the tip of the iceberg. What is behind this are the three products, almonds, pistachios, and honey. Another important thing is the tradition. We have the art of Torrone making, which is special. It's not simple. You have to process the Torrone at high temperatures. The material, the product comes out of the boilers after 8 hours. The processing time is very long, 8 hours. And during these 8 hours, the honey crystallizes and becomes friable. The others process Torrone in a couple of hours with a lot of egg yolk, which includes the air so that it's friable. In Caltanissetta, we process it for 8 hours. As an association, well, I'm not a Torrone maker, but I tried to put together the producers. We have one, for example, that has 151 years of history. Companies like these in Sicily, well, you can count them in one hand. A great heritage. This is what we have, similarly to the Mediterranean diet. When introducing the association, I was telling Francesco, well, I'd like to be part of this project. I usually use the metaphor of self-locking bricks. It's really the invention of a genius. Every brick fits with the others. I thought I want to be a brick in this pavement that you're certainly going to lay.
There are a lot of stories to tell. Everyone can play its own part, but we have all a consistent view, and we're all working in the same direction. Now, let's move on to Mrs. Giovanna Seminatore, chairperson of the Association Spazio Universale, Universal Space. Good evening. Unfortunately, I have to read because I'm a bit excited, and I would like to stick to the speech which I had prepared. I only need a second. I was born in central Sicily. Then I moved to Rome, where I worked for 25 years as a stage designer, and I am now a teacher of applied art. I've been living in Sicily for slightly more than 10 years, and I work on textiles. I am involved in social projects which promote culture and arts in particular, arts and crafts, to be more specific. I believed in an enterprise which I founded. I wanted it to be about communicating Sicily. When I was 19, I began to work through arts with young people to spread cultural values. And I like to work with children and adolescents because I think it is important to act as early as possible in order to avoid negative situations later. I would like to refer to some values of the park: beauty and harmony, widespread well-being. So this is an invitation to look, to make a bird's eye view on the Mediterranean and look at Sicily from high up in the sky. Now, living in Sicily, I have become aware of the cultural strengths of Sicily and of the other countries of the Mediterranean basin. We have an enormous cultural wealth, which has a lot of potential for growth. At the same time, we are dealing with a fragmented society. In most of my projects, the art of know-how is the most effective tool to act at the cultural, artistic, and entrepreneurial level. What are the projects that I have developed over the years? I moved back to the Caltanissetta after spending 25 years in Rome. I was excited to go back to my land of origin, but everything looked a bit slower. I opened my own weaving workshop, and to organize my own projects. I worked with companies such as Toyota, Volkswagen, so I'm used to dealing with relevant stakeholders, but I decided to come back to Caltanissetta because I realized that here there was the possibility of starting from scratch, and I saw a lot of potential. I was really full of dreams. I had very ambitious dreams, and one of the projects I worked on is a project that I launched in 2017. It is important to give people points of reference. And I tried to attract also the ones who are maybe more confused. My project was about the inclusion, the integration of adolescents at risk. If we work on adolescents, it is the best way to have a healthy society in the future. And my goal was to have a constant presence on the territory to work with the growing society. And I wanted to make young adolescents learn by doing and to help them find a job. And the idea was to create centers in various neighborhoods, workshops where they could learn arts and crafts. Then there was another project of multi-ethnic tailoring, which I believe is consistent with the principles of the park. This multi-ethnic tailor shop is aimed at involving different individuals in the creation of textiles for clothing, for the clothing industry, for the fashion industry. So every time I organize creative workshops, courses for children and adolescents, I not only teach how to weave, but also to take pictures of the end products, because it's important to begin to think about marketing, selling the products. And I do it with children already. So every worker in this multi-ethnic tailor shop will have access to a number of items coming from his or her own country of origin to create something new and to sell it. The service is a production center, but as well as a therapeutic one with workshops and courses that could help people find a job. And there is another project I'd like to mention, which is the one about high quality craft products with the census of the intangible and intangible cultural heritage. It is a project dating back to 2016, whose goal was to rediscover our culture and our rich tradition. It required the collaboration of municipalities, local authorities, and all the possible promotional channels. The idea was to make a census of top quality craftsmen through the collection of pictures, videos, to be for the elaboration of a database to be kept up to date. And in this way, the territory becomes a resource to improve knowledge and promotion of cultural heritage. And I believe that this project has a lot of potential for the growth of the first Mediterranean lifestyle park. And then there is another project that I would like to mention, the annual International Festival of Textiles from the Mediterranean Sea. This is an international festival with an interdisciplinary approach, with workshops, talk shows, with participants from the countries of the Mediterranean basin. This is really a short, very short summary of the project. Many of my projects are also related to experiential tourism, which I was glad to hear about. Then there is another project concerning the School of Arts and Crafts. Basically, we work with technical schools. I had a workshop on weaving. Now there is a workshop on costumes because everyone now wants to be a fashion designer. So unfortunately, the 1,000 looms have now been abandoned. Artisanal products are very appreciated abroad, and yet they're faced with a major crisis in Biella, in the region of Biella. I saw factories that were emptied by Chinese entrepreneurs who took all the machines and brought them to China, but the know-how has remained here. So the idea of having a school of arts and crafts is a way to give employment opportunities to people from different ethnic backgrounds and to recreate opportunities for craftsmen. So technology, technique, skills become an individual and collective opportunity. And the methodology is based on workshops, that is, areas where people learn how to do, and they learn by doing. And they do so by mobilizing all of their resources in a synergic and collective context. And the end goal is production. And the project also involves migrants who have their own know-how and skills, and this can play a decisive role in their integration. School opens up opportunities to find new talents and to open up international exchanges. So this project would be about exchanging the experiences of students, teachers, and all of these projects are ready, even but haven't been successful so far. Thank God now there is a new counselorship that would probably be willing collaborate with me, and I will certainly visit him and in his office in order to present my proposals, my projects. Then I didn't feel very well in the past few days, and so I could only follow you online. And I would like to know in practice, what would be your time scale, your practical time scale, because I saw a lot of people, a lot of experts, a lot of leaders, potential leaders, but I really need to visualize in physical terms how the park will look like. Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot to say. We said there is a lack of projects, but actually this is not your case. There is a lot to say about clothing and the textile industry and how it is related to the memory of the past and traditions of the past. And we are actually doing a lot to rediscover natural fibers, such as the use of broom. or the rediscovery of merino wool. And I truly believe that your projects could fit in very well in our park. Of course, we would have to see it in practice, but I would like to stress how textile clothing, furniture are an integral part of the Mediterranean lifestyle. Let's think about the tablecloth we use when we eat. Let's also think about the role of textiles in religious traditions. Now, a lot of it was lost in processions. They now use a lot of polyester. But let's move forward, and we have Mr. Nino Sutera, who's been waiting for more than 2 hours on Zoom. Thank you and congratulations for sticking up. But maybe you were told that you were scheduled to speak towards the end. Do you have, I heard you have a PowerPoint, right? Or can you share it? Or so the floor is yours now.
Mi dispiace.
Eccoci.
Arrivederci, grazie.
E allora, intanto permettetemi di ringraziare l'avvocato.
So first of all, please allow me to thank Mr. Nicoletti and Beppe De Santis for having me here and involving me in an extraordinary and bold project. Let me divide my presentation into 2 parts. First of all, I'll tell you what we do, what we have done, and then I will make a few considerations as a farmer. You know, the farmer is a majority stakeholder in the Mediterranean diet. There are issues which the partners have to give an answer to. For example, should this be an area brand, a design center, and is the Mediterranean diet still a brand? Before it was declared as part of the World Heritage List, it was not used the way it should have been. This is an experience dating back to 10 years ago. In Palermo, in Sala Gialla, there was a meeting with this title, Mediterranean Diet, from the bridge on the Strait to the Agrigento airport, and high-speed railroads. There were experts from the Bocconi University in Milan. They made economic and agricultural analysis telling us that you know, in Sicily, we import wheat, spices, white meat, red meat, and many other products. And then they completed their talk by saying, watch out, because if you want to adopt a Mediterranean diet, how can you do this with products imported from the other side of the world? Sicily used to be the barn of Italy. Now we import wheat from Canada and elsewhere. The same is true for barley, white meat, red meat. But in Sicily, we still produce some of these products. Now, one of the elements I should highlight is the following. I'm part of the working group which is writing the strategic plan for the CAP. In the morning, I could follow my group's work, while in the afternoon, I followed your event online. What I would like to suggest is that you don't follow roads which have been followed already. There are many formulas and many formats to deal with the territories. There are hundreds of them. Usually these paths start with projects, but they end when the resources are no longer available. This is the experience of the DECO villages. Luigi Veronelli was the founder of these places. He's from Carlo Petrini's school. Carlo Petrini established a private association, Slow Food, with public interest. Luigi Veronelli instead dealt with niche products, high identity products, which in the early 90s were neglected by everybody. He had an ambition. He thought that the mayors had to protect and promote the local identities. Mr. Veronelli was right, only 50% right. Why? Because the mayor from northern Italy included all this in their political agenda, that is, protecting typical products. So niche production was very much promoted. There's a difference between identity products and typical products. Identity products have a story to tell. They have municipal designation. Typical products are all the rest. We'll see how many there are. Well, sometimes I wonder, why is it that in the north we have a lot of municipal designation products, and in the south we have other types of products? Of course, we're perfectly in line with our friends from Slow Food, but I can't understand the underlying philosophy very much. Some time ago, I was invited to the assembly of the mayors of the DECO cities. It was way back in 2013. It was not a period where the Northern League was also present here in Sicily. In those places, in those days, people used to say that people were just stealing money at government level in Rome. The goal of my presence there was to talk about our reality, but I was not really, I could not really understand why they wanted to know about identity products and municipal designation products. The moderator introduced me by saying, and now our friend from Sicily, let's see what he has to tell us. Well, many of the councillors and mayors that were attending had already left. I started saying that we had drawn inspiration from zero-cost interventions. Well, some left anyway. Others stayed and liked my story very much and my experience. They even applauded me. Now, eating is an agricultural act. It's also an agricultural policy choice. If we use local products, then we intend to allow that territory to survive. If you have breakfast with croissants that are produced thousands of kilometers away, this means that you don't like promoting the local products. But if you have breakfast with local products, then you want to increase the viability of that territory. This is the philosophy that inspired Mr. Veronelli. In 1956, so a long time ago, and by the way, he passed away in the 90s. So in 56, he wrote, he was a very sophisticated writer, by the way. And one of his goals was to know the price of oranges on the field and the retail price of oranges. 50 years have gone by, and yet no one was able to pursue this. Anyway, he wrote that agriculture and tourism are the best weapons to develop and establish our countryside areas. Everything which was not urban was agricultural, so a sort of B category area. Now, rural areas receive great interest, even by those that never wanted to have anything to do with the countryside. This is the meeting that I was referring to before in 2013. Here, I'm sitting on the stage. Identity is an absolute value. The product can be copied, but the identity of a certain area cannot. Everything revolves around the 5T rule or around the terra rule. Usually it is said that one drives a German car, drinks a French wine, and eats Italian food. Nutrition is really a driving force here. Through a decision by the mayor certifies the origin of the local products. The philosophy is that of genius loci: man, the environment, the production culture, the history, the uniqueness, the common interest, etc. Now you might say, there are so many brands. Do we need more? This is not a brand. If you want to certify a process or a product, you simply have to choose from all these certifications, some of which are compulsory. Now, some considerations as a farmer. I believe this is an amazing initiative that is promoting identity products. This promotion by mayors is successful. If it works in the north, where the GDP is much higher than in our region, then it should also work in the south. D.com is not a typical product. European marks are under discussion now because they do not protect at all. Parmigiano Reggiano, for example, is the most protected product in the world, but Parmesan and Italian-sounding products have higher sales volumes. Some time ago, I read something by the Consortium for the Protection of Parmigiano Reggiano. Initially, they would release press releases whenever they were aware of Italian-sounding products. Then the consumers were so afraid that they would not buy the original or the fake product. But, you know, marks do not protect you anymore. When I go to a restaurant, I don't ask I don't ask whether it's a branded type of cheese or not. Also, when people go shopping, they can't make a distinction among the many brands which are available. It's economic data, you know, over and above the protection consortia that have their own press office, marketing office, their website, and a dedicated email. Well, then the rest tend to forget the brand, because the costs for managing brands are huge. Can you please try and wrap up? This is the diagram for Borghi Deco. You have the mayor and the city at the center, and then other entities, the territorial ambassadors, entities, etc. Now, some farmers' considerations. You know that the rural roads are a disaster. The water distribution network is disrupted. There are thefts in the fields and too much bureaucracy. The area, the arable land, is family-owned, most of it. And family-owned farms don't receive public funding anymore, and they have to shut down. The value of commodities is very much less, and biodiversity has been eroded. Many of the produce from our arable land doesn't exist anymore for many reasons, and then depopulation of rural areas, a short-sighted agricultural policy. You know, there was a time when the European Commission would pay the farmers not to cultivate their fields. Then subsequently, what happened was that with an attempt to standardize all production, they had all farms producing cheese closed down. Now the rural areas are abandoned. There are no more farmers. Even the banks have no more offices there. Of course, these areas run the risk of being abandoned. Really, you have to wrap up. Yes, this is it. This is my last slide. In the last 30 years, from generators of life, farmers have become promoters of death. Let me explain these concepts. Weed killers were introduced, chemical products that are used in Canada to allow wheat to become mature. This is something we consume with bread and pasta. Farmers can certainly use these products. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for stopping you, but it's late. We really have to come to a close. we have another speaker too. Anyway, thank you very much for your contribution. I hope you will share your PowerPoint so that we can take a look at it. The last speaker is Dr. Rosanna Trovato from Archeo Club Italy.
Grazie a voi. Io quando
Thank you.
sono venuta a conoscenza di questo
When I
progetto del parco,
heard about the project of the park, I thought, why should we not join it? It was perfectly in line with the goals of our association. I talked about it with the national president, and he was also excited. And so we're in. Our association is 50 years old, and we have been working for the protection of cultural assets, but not just architectural, artistic assets, but also landscape assets. And we have been involved in a number of projects to rediscover elements of cultural heritage. In Sicily, we have more than 15 branches. So the Archeo Club can rely on a number of professional figures who could play their role in the park. We promote, enhance, and spread the value of cultural assets. Last week, we were at the Archaeological Tourism Fair, where Archeo Club always participates, and the various sections of the Archeo Club can present something new. And Sicily was there to present the Abbey of St. Peter and Paul in the Valle d'Agro, a basilica which is unfortunately little known. It is actually one of the best monuments in our area, and we presented it during this exhibition on the Mediterranean Sea. So we're certainly open to any kind of collaboration. We identified two networks that are more in line with our activities, and we would be happy to collaborate with you, because we are convinced that synergy interaction with institutions is the key factor to make this successful, to make this project successful. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you also for being so short. It's now a bit late. We certainly appreciate your willingness to help. I would like to thank all of you. We've had a very rich panel with a lot of food for thought, and I'm confident that you will be able to make your own contribution to the success of the project.